Hello, my name is Sam, and welcome to this Redstone tutorial for Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Today I'll be showing you how to build this melon and pumpkin farm that is intended for large-scale use, and it uses these handy flying machines to harvest all the melons and pumpkins. Now, I know that 1.16 added the ability for observers to detect when melon and pumpkin stalks will grow a melon or pumpkin, and so you can use a little system like this to harvest them. But this thing gets expensive very quickly if you go for large scale. So I have this, and this doesn't cost a whole lot more when you make it bigger in this direction. Now if you try and make it wider, it'll cost a fair bit more. But you can make it pretty wide or pretty long before you start to run into any issues. Before we start, I'm going to give you a demonstration of this thing in action, so you kind of have an idea of what you're going to get into. Oh, here, let me just get rid of that previous harvest. Put in a fresh chest down here. What's that? Huh? I'm so confused right now. There we go. Yeah, the machine just flies along and harvests everything, and it all gets picked up by hopper minecarts down below. And it all goes into whatever storage system you want it to go into down here. Okay. And hoppers can only go so fast, so let's just take a look down here to see how much has been collected. Yeah, this is a much smaller design than what you can theoretically go to, but yeah, pretty good. So now that you know what you're getting into, let's start working on the tutorial. Alright, so we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So you're going to want to start with an area that's 16 blocks wide. I wasn't counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This is going to be the total width for the entire thing. And then you're going to want to have your platform that all the rails are going to be going on that's 12 blocks wide. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. And it's going to be centered on the area that you chose. And we're just going to make it this long for today. Oh, important thing. You want the long side to be going along the east-west axis of your world. If you make it going along the north-south, you'll have issues when it comes to rails. So, see, when you're going east-west, the rails are very cooperative when you place them. Whereas if you try to go north-south, looks fine at first, and then it does that. Yeah, and that's not fun. It's a pretty bad time if you try to build it on the north-south axis. So I'd recommend just don't. Anyway, I'll be back once this is all filled in. All right, so once you've got your platform made, you want to get some hoppers and a chest, and go like this. And then you place hoppers down this side, like so. You want to crouch and then place them facing into one another so that the items will go along like this and all end up in the chest. So then you place like that, and then a block up here, and then blocks all along like this. And over at the other end, you're going to want to do another block up and across. So now you get your rails and your powered rails, and powered rail there, regular rail there, and I'm just going to do all powered rails, but if you're building this in survival, you probably want to use mostly regular rails, but you want to have at least 1 or 2 powered rails down on this end. So I'm going to fill all that in, and then I'll be back. Alright, now that all that's in place, you're going to need to have your powered rails be, well, powered. So normally when I'm in survival, I just go underneath and put down some levers and flick them. And that'll get everything powered. If you want to go a little more expensive, you can make a few parts of the floor out of redstone blocks. That's a popular aesthetic choice, but you know, I like to be cheap, so I'm just going to do this. Okay, once you've got everything all powered up, we're going to move on to the dirt. So, you get some dirt, and you just place it in all the spots above the rails. So, I'm going to place that in, and then I'll be back. Okay, now, once you have all your dirt in place, on the side, you're going to want to place slabs like this, and then a block on each end, and then another block out the side of the slabs. And then you just fill it all in with water. And this is so that at least part of the field gets hydrated. It doesn't quite reach to the middle, but that's okay, because as long as you plant the seeds in time, it won't really have a negative impact. It's just nice to have the water here. Okay, and then on the ends. Okay. So and then on each side you build up a 2-block high wall. So like this. Alright, and once that's all filled in, I'll be back. Okay, so now once you've got your wall in, this wall prevents drops from getting out of the farm. So you take a sticky piston, and on the 3rd, 6th, 7th, 7th, and 10th blocks from the right, you replace the block with a sticky piston facing up. And then you take some observers and place them on top with the output going this way. Then you place a slab in the upper half off of there, and then a block. And then on each of those, oh man, where'd these come from? Those are comparators. You place repeaters on 4 ticks. Okay, and once you've got those in, you place a block up. In each of those. And then redstone dust on top. Then you can you go down to below and place some blocks with dust on top. Then you can just put a lever in there. This is going to be what you can use to just activate the farm whenever. So I'm going to pull the lever to move those up. And you get your immovable objects. Really movable there. Place one there, and oh man, just gonna reference here real quick. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. There and there, and that's to stop the flying machines from just tearing through the whole structure and causing problems. So, then you get your honey and your slime and your sticky pistons. You place 2 slime in like that, 2 sticky pistons like that, another 2 slime, then the sticky pistons again, slime there, And then you switch to honey. Honey there. Sticky pistons again. Honey. Sticky pistons. And then honey. Honey again. Alright, and then for the last one, it's going to be slime. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's not right. Wait a minute. Oh. Sorry, my bad. It's long day. The sticky piston there goes on the second block, not the third. Just gonna rebuild that. Like that. Okay, so now that's back in place like it should be. Build in the rest of the flying machine like that. Okay, so now for the next part, you take some blocks and you go up 2 and then break 1 in each of these spots. And then you go down below and place observers on the bottom of each block facing down. Sorry for that noise. Honey is kind of gross. And once you're done, I generally just leave these blocks here. You can get rid of them, but it might send your flying machines off, which at this point you really don't want to do. But I generally leave them there in case something breaks and you need to rebuild it. So, once you got that in, we're going to put in the part that actually does the harvesting for the melons and pumpkins. So, on the underside of the machine, you want to put observers facing that way, and then sticky pistons facing down. You're going to turn them the other way around on the sort of front end. But same idea. Okay, so once those are in, we're going to put in the part that actually launches off the flying machine, but like I said, be very careful not to launch it off at this point, because, it'll just go flying off into the distance, and it'll be not very fun to catch. So, anyway, you want to put pistons in each of these locations so that when the pistons extend, they can grab those observers and pull them back. So, and then once you got all of your pistons in, you place in blocks like that on top of the pistons in sort of this L shape. Then you go back with some redstone dust and just put dust on each of those blocks you just placed. Okay, and now if you pull that lever again, the machine will be sent off. So now we're going to put in the system that catches the machine and sends it back. So coming out from the piston here, you want to go back to the other end. Go block up and observer with obsidian. And then, yep, and just line them up with the pistons that you can see. I'm just going to double check that. Okay, yeah, there we go. And then obsidian. And there. So, then on this side, you just do block, 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 block. Then repeaters on 4 ticks. block up. And then dust on top. And you don't have to, but I generally do it at this point just to make it a little easier. Now you can send the flying machine across. So when you know you did it right, if it's flying like this, and every time the machine moves, the pistons on the bottom are going to extend down. Okay, now that it's here, you put in the sticky pistons, like so. Once again, they're positioned so they can grab those observers and move them. Blocks again, just like before. Careful not to mess with those observers, though, because strange things might happen if you do. And connect it up, like that. And there you go, that's the return system. Alright, so now we're going to put in the part that launches off the minecarts for collection. So you place some blocks in down here, behind the part where there's the hoppers. And, oh, I can't believe I forgot to do this earlier, but yeah, you're going to need to place minecart hoppers in there. I'm just going to go above and break the dirt. Oh no. Yeah, be careful not to do that later. That's... oh no. Hold on, let me fix that. Right, the one downside to having water there is that that can happen occasionally. And I'll explain later why I just left it as stone instead of turning it back to dirt. Anyway, make sure, I'd recommend putting in your minecart hoppers before you place in the dirt. And also don't do what I just did. I was on a roll there. Anyway, so now that you've got all those in to actually be sent off and collected, put the dirt back, and get your repeaters. Put a repeater on each of these spots. Then dust. Then, okay. Then in this spot, gonna off-center, put a repeater, and then above it, a block, and then you sort of make this staircase of glass. Sort of like that. And then, you don't really have to do this, but I like to. You just connect it all up. And dust in there. And now I'm just gonna use a button here, and now I can send it off. What's that? Anyway. Oh. Uh-oh. What happened here? Uh-oh. That's unusual. Never seen that happen before, but this gives you an idea of how to do maintenance on your flying machine if something goes wrong. To get it moving again, put some blocks up there, take the observers out, and then place the observers facing down again on those blocks. And then you just break that block, and there we go. Now it's off. Oh, I left these up. Oh no. Here, I'll be back once these things have settled down. Okay, I'm back, and so Now you're going to notice that there are certain spots on the field that the pistons just can't reach because of the shape of the flying machine. And in those spaces you don't want anything to grow because it can never be harvested. So just replace those spots with stone or just anything that isn't dirt, more or less. And then when you go to do the edges, you got to be very careful to not let the water out like I did before. And if you're in survival, you may just want to remove the water from those little bits entirely. And then on the other end of the field, it's going to be sort of the opposite pattern. So over here, it's going to be these blocks that it won't be able to reach, and as well as, let's see, these four. Yeah, it's going to be these ones that it can't reach. So now we can get into placing all of our melons and pumpkins. So you get your hoe, and then you start in the corner, and it doesn't really matter which seed you start with, but just stick to that seed with this entire row. Oh no, I'll be back. Okay, so after that little mishap, yeah, be careful not to do that. If you're in survival, just jump on it if you make a mistake. So make sure you stick to the seed you chose for the entire row. Okay, and then once you've got that in, go back to the start and skip the first block and then switch to the other seed. And just keep continuing this pattern for the entire field. And you make this sort of checkerboard pattern. Okay, and yeah, you just keep so you started with pumpkins, then for the third one you do pumpkins again. You just keep on alternating until you're done. And I'll be back once I've got this all filled in. Okay, so once you have all your melon and pumpkin seeds planted in, so you get some solid blocks or just anything that a piston can push properly. I recommend slabs if you're doing it in survival just because it's cheaper. And you place a slab in... Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. I made a mistake. I'll fix that and I'll be right back. Right. So what I did wrong was I had placed this stone in the wrong spot. So anyway, now that that's out of the way, you place your whatever block of choice you have in the spots above where the melons and pumpkins will grow, and you leave empty spots where the seeds are planted. So with this setup, when the flying machine flies over, the sticky pistons will grab these slabs and push them down, harvesting the melons and pumpkins instantly, and leaving the stalks alone. So it takes a while to place these in, and it's a bit tricky, I'll admit. So I recommend using a different block, kind of as this block that you place things off the side of, just to make it easier, so you don't get confused. So I'll be back once this is all filled in. Okay, so once you've got your entire field filled in with this checkerboard pattern of slabs, or whatever block you decide to use, right, one thing you may want to do is put some light sources in here. That could be glowstone, it could be shroom light, it could be sea lanterns. As long as it's movable and provides light, you probably want to have some, because if you don't, mobs can spawn in here and they may trample your crops or just get in the way and be nuisances in general. So put some light sources in here if you're building this in survival. Oh, and a quick thing, if you're in survival, you may want to bone meal all of these seeds so that they start producing melons and pumpkins as soon as possible, because otherwise it will take quite a while for the stalks to actually grow to full height. Alright, so now we're going to do something to kind of boost the collection system and make sure that nothing gets left behind. So you're going to want a an observer on this block right here in front of the flying machine, and then just redstone dust, and make sure to replace a repeater every 15 blocks to make sure you don't run out of signal charge. So that's 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Repeater, then some more right there. And I don't even need to count because this is definitely within range, but okay. And then I'm going to put let me just move that down a little. There we go. A repeater there, and put the repeater there on 4 ticks. Because observers are weird, and you won't get a pulse long enough to actually send the minecarts off otherwise. So now as the machine goes out, it's going to trip this observer and send the minecarts off to collect, and then when it gets to the far end, it'll send them off again, and then when it gets back home, it'll send them off a 3rd time. So that'll ensure that absolutely everything gets collected and goes into your storage, which I definitely recommend a much bigger storage system than this. Like, I did an overnight AFK session with a larger one of these and filled up like 5 double chests with melons and pumpkins. It was kind of crazy. But I mean, the field was bigger than this, but you get the idea. So now it's pretty much done. The last bit is pretty optional, but could definitely be helpful. I'm going to put in a system so that you can AFK with this. So you're going to want a redstone block, some hoppers, some comparators, some dust, some regular pistons, and let's get into it. So going to want a block there with a repeater on it, and then an observer facing up with redstone dust, and then down here put a redstone block. It's going to put some blocks on the floor for us. Then you want to place hoppers pointing into each other so that they can pass items back and forth. Then take a comparator out of each one and pointing into a block on each side. Then put redstone dust on top. Then you place a piston facing in on each side. And then take, I'd say, about 4 stacks of any old item, 4.5 stacks maybe, and put it into one of the hoppers. This will start the redstone clock. So every time all of the items get transferred from this hopper to the other one, this redstone block will move, and this observer will make an output, which will activate the farm. But first we need to get this other thing in. So let's see. Sticky piston facing down right there with a block. When this piston is activated, this block will come down, and it'll allow the charge to go through it and send off the machines. So you just want to pick your AFK spot. I'm going to put mine over here, and like this. Just going to get a pressure plate so that it only works when you're there, and take the line 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well, you know what? I'm just going to do one early, and into the piston. So you'll see it all lights up, and if we get there in time, yeah, it works. So while you're standing on that pressure plate, every time this clock ticks over, it'll send off the machine to harvest. And for your AFK room, I'd recommend you make it safe, make sure nothing could spawn in it, have some chests to put all your stuff in. Never AFK with important items on you. If something happens, you'll regret it. Alright, quick note from during editing. There is an upper limit for how big you can build this, so make sure that from your AFK spot, the entire farm is loaded in from wherever that AFK spot is. If any of the redstone is in a chunk that isn't loaded from where you're standing, then the machine will break. And also, make sure you don't walk away while the machine is running, because if the flying machine enters unloaded chunks, that will also break the machine. If you're playing on a simulation distance of 4, which is what all realms currently are on Bedrock Edition, or most Xboxes and lower end PCs in general play on simulation distance 4, it will be 4 chunks. So that's 64 blocks away from where you are, generally speaking. So just keep that in mind if you're going to make it bigger. And the same applies if you're going to make it wider. And you make it wider by just adding on more flying machines, more or less. So, hope you found that helpful. So, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, then please leave a like and subscribe.